What's up, people? Joe Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and here's my next episode of Joe Winko Talk. And the topic I'm going to be talking about in this video is, I'm just going to say it right now. It's a very morbid and dark and depressing topic. I've been talking about a lot of morbid stuff on Joe Winko Talk recently, but, it's nothing funny at all, so here I go. So, you guys remember how I wanted to do the chilling crime documentaries? I'm still going to do those, but not until later. But, as you all probably know, I get a lot of ideas for my horror movies from real stuff that happened, like real crimes that happened, and real murders and everything. And even back when I was a kid, before I started making my videos and started writing stories, I used to read about real crimes online. I'd Google like murders and everything when I was like 8 or 9 years old, or 8, 9, and 10 years old, and read about those so I can get ideas for my horror stories and horror movies. And then I came across something. So, you may have heard the terms or names John Does or Jane Does. And for those of you who don't know, a John Doe or a Jane Doe, when they find someone dead and they don't know who they are, if they find someone dead, they don't know who they are or where they came from, but they're a dead person and they're trying to identify them. They give them the name John Doe or Jane Doe to refer to them as. So that's what they call unidentified people. John Doe is if it's a boy, Jane Doe if it's a girl. And the first Jane Doe I read about was back when I was 9 years old. And I found it on a forum called Web Sleuths. Web Sleuths. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And it was a girl who was found dead in a cornfield in this small town out in New York called Caledonia. And she was it was a farmer who found her because he saw like clothing laying in he saw a red jacket in the cornfield, like a jacket she was wearing. And then he saw blood, like, all over the side of the road. And when he looked into the cornfield, he saw her laying there dead. And he called the police. The police came. They said that she'd been shot to death. And she'd been shot once in the back and once in the back of her head. And she was dragged out, and she was left there. And she was only been dead for, like, 1 day. And, they didn't know, they thought she was a local girl at first, so they didn't know who she was, so they showed a sketch of her face, and here's a generated picture of her. Here's what they think she looked like. This is what they think she looked like. I'm not going to show her post-mortem photos. Like, her face wasn't damaged at all because she was shot, but it was a little distorted. But that's what they think she looked like. And 20 years later, in 2012, 2011-ish, they released this picture. And this picture looks completely different from the first one they had. I kind of think that's probably, well, no, not exactly, never mind. But it does look really different from the first picture they have. And, so no one knew who she was, and they couldn't find out who she was, because she actually came from a place that was really far away, because they saw tan lines on her skin, and she was found dead in November. And in New York, in November, there's no way a person would get tan lines if they were in New York. So they thought she came from someplace warm, like California, Florida, Arizona, places like that. And when I first read about this, I was only like 9 or 10 years old. This actually really freaked me out that no one knew who she was, because they estimated that her age was between 13 to 18 years old. Well, 13 to 19 years old. And I always thought that if a girl that young is shot to death and murdered, they would know who she is, or someone would be missing her, or someone would be wondering what happened to her, or where she was, or someone would report her missing. Or they just know who she was. But, no one knew who she was at all, and it freaked me out. And they do know who she was now. her name was Tammy Jo Alexander. This is what she really looked like when she was alive. This was her. And she was the girl who was found shot to death in the cornfield. How they found out it was her was one of her friends she went to high school with tried contacting her and looking her up on Facebook or MySpace, not MySpace, but tried looking her up on Facebook, but they couldn't find her at all. So they called one of her family's relatives, like, because her parents are dead, but they called her sister's still alive, and they asked her, who was, what happened, where's Tammy? And I tried contacting her on Facebook, but I couldn't find her. She said that Tammy went missing in 1977. Well, they think she went missing between 1977 and 1979, so no one knew where she gone to or anything. And her friend then called she was from Brooksville, Florida. They called the Florida Police Department, the Brooksville, Florida Police Department, and they said that no missing persons report was filed for her. So then they entered her name in the missing children's database that they have now, and then they automatically matched it up to Caledonia Jane Doe, and that's how they they thought it was her. So they took a DNA sample from her sister, compared it to the body to the Caledonia Jane Doe, and that's how they identified her. It was her. And I actually am following the page for the Caledonia Jane Doe on Facebook, and when I first saw that picture posted in there, and when I saw how her face looked and everything, I kind of knew it was going to be her, but I just wasn't like 100% sure. And then when I actually found out it actually was her, like, I was in my college class, and as I was leaving, I pulled out my phone and checked Facebook, and then a notification came up from the Caledonia Jane Doe Facebook page, and it said she has been identified. I just felt this really bitter chill. It was just I don't know how to describe it, but it was just really chilling, really sad. It was really sad and chilling because, like, the whole entire time, I was reading about her for years, this Jane Doe, wondering who she was, ever since I was like 9 or 10 years old, so back when I was a little kid. And I just thought, and now we finally know who she is, and you just think this wasn't just a girl who was found dead somewhere. This was actually someone who was alive, and someone who had a life, had friends and family, and just had their whole life taken away from them. And she lived with her mother, and I think her stepfather, and her mother, I read that her mother had a lot of problems. Her parents are dead now, but I read that her mother had a lot of problems, and that she was a drug addict who was addicted to like prescription drugs, and she'd have violent, angry outbursts. And this just okay. This is gonna get kind of personal, but that creeped me out a little bit, because it's kind of similar to like my biological mother is dead, but my biological mother had problems too. She used drugs, and I'm not going to go into detail talking about her because she died like way when I was an infant, so I never knew her at all. But it was just creepy how that paralleled, like me and her paralleled like that. And she said that she'd run away from home a lot, so that's probably why her missing persons report wasn't taken so seriously. And because one time I read that her and one of her friends, she was a waitress at a truck stop, and she'd always hitchhike all the time because she worked as a waitress at a truck stop, and she knew all the truckers. One of the truckers at the truck stop gave her and her friend a ride all the way out to California, and they stayed there. They ran away there. And remember, she was only 16 years old, and they must have did this when she was like 13 or 14, went all the way to California. I can't imagine traveling that far when you're that young. But it was the 70s. Things were completely different back then. But yeah, and so her parents like when they identified her, like the police officer who found her dead said he doesn't understand how her parents could throw a child away like that, because he thought she wasn't reported missing. But her sister was really mad when she found out, because they said she actually was reported missing, and they found out in 1979 they used paper records to keep track of everything, because they didn't have computers back then. They used paper records to keep track of missing people, but they think that those records were purged, because when they get so many stacks of paper, they just start throwing them out, and they think that one of Tammy's missing persons report was thrown out, and that's really creepy. When I don't know if creepy's the right word, but that's really disturbing that it was like a missing girl and you just throw that information out. And yeah, it was really sad, but stuff like this happens a lot. Like, people are always found dead and unidentified, and it happens it's much more common than you think. Like, there's always a girl or a guy who's found dead somewhere. Sometimes they die of natural causes, sometimes they die of accidents, sometimes they're brutally murdered, like this girl was, but they don't know who they are. So, this is one thing I was thinking of, and let me know what you guys think of this. But I was thinking of making another YouTube channel, like another side YouTube channel for people who are dead and unidentified, like Jane Does and John Does. Like, have a video about each of them, where they're found, what they looked like, what they were wearing. Because maybe someone might see those videos and might think, hey, that looks a lot like my brother who went missing. Or, hey, that looked a lot like my daughter or sister who went missing. And might try contacting the police, get those people identified. Because it's just really sad that people are laying in their graves dead, and no one knows who they are at all, and no one's missing them at all. It's really depressing to think about that. And, well, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. They haven't found out who killed her yet, but they're gonna try to. They're gonna try to figure it out, and I really think they are. But it happened like way back in 1979, so I don't think I don't even think the killer is still alive, but he could be. And this is his sketch, his suspect sketch. So yeah, that's who they think the killer looks like. And how they have an idea of who he looked like was, after she was found dead, a bunch of people claimed they saw her around the area. And one waitress who worked at a diner said that she saw her sitting at a table eating dinner with a guy one night who she got in the car with. And they said that she was like talking with him and everything, and they looked really comfortable around each other. And when they found her body and did the autopsy and everything, they found like corn and ham and potatoes in her intestines when they examined them. And they said that's exactly what the waitress served her, so they really think that was her. And they're asking all of her high school friends, like if you went to high school with Tammy, or if anyone knew Tammy, would they like to make sure to contact the police and investigators and answer questions so they can find out what happened to her. And I really hope they do find this killer, because he didn't only like take her life, he took her name and everything, and she wasn't sexually assaulted when they did the autopsy. And I just don't understand, why would you take a gun and kill a 16-year-old girl for no reason? Because there's no reason for that at all. There's no reason to kill anyone. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional right now, but it's really sad. And they have her buried at a cemetery in Livingston County, New York. That's where Caledonia is. And they're thinking about, they're going to replace her headstone. They're saving up for it. And her sister is planning to go to New York once the weather gets better and have a memorial service. And I really want to go to that memorial service because I think I really should be there. I'm not sure how I'm going to because I don't have enough money to travel to New York. I might be able to figure something out, but if I can't come there, then I'll be there in spirit then. But I really want to go there to her memorial service because I think I should go there because I've been reading about her for so long, and someone has to be there for her. Okay, I'm sorry guys, I don't know why I'm tearing up, it's really sad. But I hope they find out who killed her, because whoever it is, he's a monster, and if he's not alive right now, and if they never find out who he is, he'll burn in hell for it, because he deserves it. So, yeah, that's it for that. And besides that, I'm making a new movie called Scare Town about the Elijah Lamb story, and I have this picture. This is the first picture from behind the scenes of Scare Town. This is the cast of Scare Town, and you can find more about this video, what it's going to be about, what's going on, posted on my fan page. And I also been I have a gaming channel too, Joe Winko Gotta Play 2015. I've been posting a lot of Sims 1 gaming videos of that, and no one ever watches those, though. I think people should. You can also find them on a playlist on this channel, too. Like, if you check my playlist, Sims 1 Gameplay Series. I've been recently hooked on that game, because I like how old school it is, and I have myself living with Lizzie McGuire and Matilda, you know, the character from the Royal Dale series, and one guy named Bo the Random Kid. He's this little boy who I made up. And Lizzie McGuire actually got married, and they had 2 babies, but they grown up into children. One of them is named Danny Dixon, because I didn't want to name him Daryl Dixon, but that's who he's named after. And another one is named Tammy Jo Johnson, and I actually, getting back to what I was talking about earlier, I actually named her that to kind of memorialize Tammy Jo Alexander, because when you die that bad, you need to be remembered at least some positive way. So, yeah. I hope this video didn't make any of you guys depressed at all. But it is really sad. So, make sure to check out my Sims 1 gaming videos. I'll have a link to those in an annotation somewhere. And don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, Joe Winko Gotta Play 2015. I have the link to that on my channel, but I'll have the link to it in the description, too. And don't forget to like me on Facebook. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to like me on Facebook, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter. So, yeah, that's basically it. So, peace out, people.